All right, Marlene. So tell us, how do you have your ISA team organized nowadays? Are they augmenting you? Are they replacing you? Are they adding on to the leads you're already generating? How have you managed that transition?
I have 3 full-time ISAs. They all 3 cold call, historical prospects. I have not cold called in a long time, which is crazy wild.
All right, folks, we are back, and I've got a good one for you today. We got Marlene Sedeno out of lovely Hawaii. You know, the beautiful islands of Hawaii. If you guys have ever been there, I've been there a couple times myself. Amazing. And one of the things you always ask about when you're in Hawaii is about real estate, because it's just such a beautiful area. I think everyone on the planet would like to live there. And Marlene makes that happen for people every single day. And not only that, Marlene has built her business on a type of prospecting, which I wish more people would try, which is circle prospect, which makes it doubly more interesting, right? How she's been able to build a business around that. But, enough about my intro. Why don't we hear from her herself? Marlene, tell us a little bit about, yourself. How'd you get into the business? And what does your business look like right now? Go for it.
So hopefully you can hear me, but I got in the business. Okay, good. In 2020, I graduated with my degree here in University of Hawaii. And in 2020, there were no jobs. They took off all the job postings.
Yeah, tourism, Hawaii, COVID. Yeah, not a great time.
It wasn't a great time. So I was like, all the jobs I was scoping was like gone. My husband was already in real estate he just went full time. So I think that was his second year. And he just said, hey, why don't you just do real estate with me? And I was going, I don't really like sales. But I decided to do it. And then my first year, I made 100,000 in GCI. I did hit that. I worked mostly actually my first year, I only did for sale by owners.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So it was part of Brandon Mulrenan's program.
Cool.
When Brandon did I don't know if you remember, but he did FSBO domination. Do you remember that?
Yeah, definitely. Huge program.
Yeah. So it was just FSBOs. Like his specialty was, hey, come to me for training. I would teach you how to sell FSBOs, and he did, and that's what I did. And then towards the end of 2020, I was like, Brandon, I don't have any more FSBOs, or all the FSBOs are selling on their own. I'm like, they don't need me anymore. So where I just started picking up the phone and just calling neighborhoods.
Gotcha.
And a lot of agents were calling expireds. I don't have a lot of expireds in my market, so that wasn't an option for me. Yeah.
I got you. That's wild. And for people that don't remember this, because it might have been a long time ago. For a lot of people, it was ages ago. I had agents, that were working with PowerISA in January of 2021. So right around the time you're talking about, saying, I'm giving up on FSBO. Like it's impossible, right? A lot of them are selling right off the bat, and the ones that aren't selling are just off the deep end. Like they're just nuts, right? So it was really, really difficult to get those FSBOs to convert in that time frame, because the market was just so unbelievably hot. It was just just going crazy, right? So 100%. So you were faced with that, first with COVID, so you adapted to that, and then you suddenly saw FSBO inventory drying up. It's like, okay, I got to try something different. Why neighborhood calling? Why circle prospect? Why did that jump out to you? And I'm curious, because most agents avoid it like the plague, right? Oh my goodness, it's all these hours, and I got to talk to these people are not ready to go. They're very top. I've heard every complaint in the book about not doing circle prospect. I'm really curious how the transition from a pretty high converting, hand raiser lead like a FSBO, which is, they want to sell. There's more to it than that, but they want to sell, right? Versus circle, which is I might want to sell in a year or two. That is a pretty big difference. How did you navigate that change?
Oh, that's a good question. So I was part of Brandon's program again, and I think he was just in the early stages, or he was releasing Listing Agent Academy, where he was starting to teach more, dabble in other stuff. But I really had to kind of figure out my footing on my own, because a lot of people weren't doing it in my group. They were doing the FSBO and expired. So I was like, where do I get the list? Who do I call? What I realized in Hawaii is that we have a lot of military, and they have to leave every 3 to 5 years.
Gotcha.
So
Boom.
Yeah, it's just like boom, every 3 to 5 years. Bye. Yeah, here they come in and then they leave. So I can't remember like back why I decided to pick up the phone, but when I did decide to pick up the phone, it was so much fun. Like calling those people, I swear it was so much fun. And in 2021, like everyone wanted to sell, so I would get like one lead per 10 contacts. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. 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 That's really
And I
good.
would
That's
get
amazing.
leads that were converting fast because of the, also you have to keep in mind the market we were in,
Yeah.
right? People were feeling
Going
good.
absolutely nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, people were feeling good. They wanted to sell. So when I was calling all those circles, people were like, yeah, I actually do want to sell. And before I forget, right now in my business today, people that I called 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, right? This is when I first started Circle. Now I have a few that I'm listing today.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so I want to get into that too because that's a part of the process. People can kind of sometimes ignore that. But let's drill into it. Let's talk about that because neighborhood calling. You had a lot of success early on because people were kind of it was motivated. It was the market. It was all these things. But the majority of these leads are not going to be come list me kind of situations, right? The majority are going to be walk us through the process. I want to become a circle agent. Like I want to build my business on Circle Prospect, right? Can you walk me a little bit through, give me the cliff notes on what does that process entail? You make the calls to these neighborhoods. How do you pick them? Like your favorite neighborhoods, somewhere you just had a listing. You make the calls. What does that like roughly sound like? And what do you do after that?
Oh, that's not okay. Those are good questions because a lot of people ask me those questions. Oh, those are good questions. Okay, so how do you? I'll go back. How do you pick the neighborhoods?
Yeah,
Okay, so I pick the neighborhoods that I just want to call in. Maybe like in my backyard. I do a lot of absentee owners, so people that don't live here, or maybe investment properties. You could see that those people go through a lot of pain sometimes when they have bad tenants. But I remember watching something like a YouTube. I think Mike Ferry said it or something. He said, "Fish where there's fish." So if you go on your MLS, go and see the neighborhoods that you see a lot of pendings or a lot of transactions happening, and then be like, okay, I'm gonna call there. There's something going on there. Does that make sense? So that's
yeah.
that's what I do sometimes too.
I got you. I got you. So you look for areas like this is a high value neighborhood. This is a high turnover neighborhood. I have experience in this neighborhood. You're strategic. I'm going to go here because I want to have more listings there because there's a high turnover rate.
Yeah.
Cool. I love that. And where do you get your lists? Because you had to figure that out kind of on your own. Like what, again, this is, and to be honest with people, sometimes what works in Hawaii is not going to work in every state in the country. But, I love to hear your story and how you arrived at that.
So when I first started, I would buy my list through Mojo Data. And that was really successful for me because, like I said, I'm like listing like a $1.7 million property at 1.1. I'm listing $1 million properties from that Mojo Data 4 years ago. So Mojo Data is good. It's very affordable if you're starting. I've tried other lead sources like batch skip tracing, deal machine. There's a few ones I tried. I'm not like married to any of them. I feel
Gotcha.
like they're just data. But what I would do is I would go to my title company, right? And I would ask them, can I get absentee owners in a certain neighborhood? And then I would take that list and skip trace it in Mojo Data. In Mojo,
Got it. Got it.
Mojo, they have a skip tracing service.
Skip. Yeah. Mojo skip trace. Mojo skip.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
I
That's how I
love
got.
that. I love that. Great. No, it's awesome. And I'm saying you called through Mojo. Like Mojo is you call it your main tool that you've used for dialing. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely awesome. Great. And fill us in on like the other part because one part is making a contact. What do you say to them, right? Like what's your typical, because and I know it changes, but what's been a successful script for you? Because sometimes people are really curious about what Circle is. And I'm with you, Marlene. This Circle is the type of prospecting I did the most of because I was no, I just lent itself to my personality. I like talking to people I don't know. I don't mind it actually. I'm fine. I'd rather talk to them than call my database. Like, oh my God, I got 10, like 100 times more. And I did both. And it was the Circle prospect was the easiest call for me to make because you just had to like just have a conversation with someone you don't know and figure something out about them and see if they want to do something in real estate and just kind of go wherever I want. That was my approach. I
Yeah.
found it just way easier to me and lend itself to my skills, right? And what what does a good conversation with a circle prospecting lead sound like? And let's go with that. Like what's your intro? What do you try to do with them? Because the goal of these calls is not to set an appointment. It's just probably not going to happen. Maybe in the spring of 2021, you got a few of those. That's few and far between, right?
Not anymore. Yeah. You have to
Yeah.
be much more contacts.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, Gustavo. I like to have fun on my prospecting calls. I'm like, me and you are similar where I just like to talk. Like I just
Yeah.
wanna, hey, like, oh, what made you choose to live in that area? Oh, how long have you lived there? Oh, if you were to go somewhere, where would you go to next? So just casual conversations. But how I start the intro is Bob. Yeah, this is Bob. Bob, this is Marlene. Would you be completely upset if I said this is Marlene the realtor calling you by chance? Like I like to joke around, like I'll change it up. But would you
Yeah.
be upset if I said I was calling homeowners in the area, seeing if anyone wanted to sell or move? And sometimes they'll laugh. Sometimes they'll be like, "No, wait, what? Who's this again?" And then I'll just go straight. I'm talking to homeowners in the area. I didn't know if possibly you had any thoughts on moving at some point, right? So you really want to get to the point right
Right
away.
off the bat. Right off the
Yeah.
bat.
I don't even ask them like, "Oh, do you still own the property on 123 Main Street?" I just cut that out. I'm
Wow.
like, yeah,
Just go for it.
because you'll find out in the call, and then they'll say no or they say yes. 99% of the time they'll say no, and then I just keep going, keep asking questions. Oh, what made you, if you don't mind me asking, what made you choose to live out there? If you were to move, where would you go to next? Would you stay local? Would you maybe move to the mainland? I just keep talking to them.
Just
Yeah.
keep the conversation going. Keep the
Yeah.
conversation going. Ask the next question, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's fun. And people talk to me for a long time. And sometimes I have to get off the phone.
Because you make it, yeah, 100%. One of the calls I remember the most was someone from Hawaii. Actually, I was in Seattle making calls, and he had relocated to Hawaii. And that, we had again no chance of me getting a listing from them because like, oh, I don't work in Hawaii. But we had
Right.
such a good connection that they sent me a referral later, like that year. Like, hey, in Seattle,
Crazy.
I met this really great agent. He's a really cool guy. You should talk to him. I was like, holy cow, great things can happen if you just make a solid connection with someone, right? But the number one issue that I see with agents trying circle prospect, Marlene, is not really the conversation. People can usually figure that out. It's they don't talk to enough people. Is usually it. Like they get frustrated. It takes too long. What's a good contact rate? Because I know you know your numbers. You measure. If you're coming from the Brandon Mulrennan School, you know your numbers. You track your numbers. What's a good contact rate? Because you've had a lot of success with Circle. What's a good contact rate to achieve? Like what do your numbers look like to give people an idea? Because for most people, the issue is not that they can't connect over the phone. No, it's they talk to 5 people in like a 3 hour calling session.
Yeah. You guys should be talking to 10 to 15 people per hour.
Love it.
Okay. My average is 12.
Okay.
But let's say 10 to 15. Seven is like Brandon even has said before in his trainings, like seven is like minimum, like seven
Yeah.
contacts per hour. But if you're circling, more people are picking up versus expireds.
God, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's another thing. That's an important. I'm glad you brought that up. That's an important distinction. Not only are they not mad at you off the bat, right? Or probably not. Uh, they're probably going to talk to more of them because it's an unassuming call. There's not another 50 realtors trying to reach them that day or that week.
Yeah.
And it's not going. They're not going crazy. They haven't shut off their phone from all these calls that they're getting. Right, 100%. I think
I'll
that's
talk to people and I'm like, oh, are you getting calls? He's like, you're the only realtor that's ever called me. I'm like, even the one I'm listing, I asked him, he's like, yeah, I remember you cold called me like 4 years ago. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's funny. Has any other realtors cold call you? He said, no, no one's cold called me.
yeah, because no one does this. Your circle is one of the things I think almost nobody does.
No
Uh,
competition. You go into a listing, you create a relationship with someone, you go into the listing appointment and you take an order.
Period and the story, right? Because
Yeah.
they already know, like, and trust you. And that's the next question I had for you, Marlene. What does that nurture process looks like? Let's say they're not one of those come list me situations. It can happen. You hit a home run every now and then. For most of them, it's going to be a process, right? You just mentioned a few 4-year follow-up processes, 5-year follow-up processes. Okay, you have a connection with them. You ask them about, you make a personal connection. That's great. What happens after you get off the phone with that person? Are you setting up a plan to call them? How often do you call them? What do you say in the second call, the third call, right? You can't have the same conversation over and over again. So what does that nurturing process look like? Because that is the second point of failure that I see with agents on Circle Prospect. Some of them have a lot of success on the front end. They can get people in the database, and then nothing happens with those people in the back end. And like, oh my goodness, I got to do something else, right? They lose patience to try and convert some of these folks. What does that nurture follow-up process look like for you?
Yeah, so once they go into my database, they'll get an email with my resume and a video. I learned this one when I was in the program with Brandon. I used like bomb video. So just like, hey, this is Marlene, just a face to the voice. My resume is attached. Like, just keep it super simple, blah, blah, blah. Don't talk that much. Yeah, so, and then put my resume, and then I'll send automations. Like, I have an automated email sending out if they got my resume. I'll text them. I'll call them the next day. And what the purpose of the call the next day is I ask them, did you get my resume? Most say no, or yeah, I didn't open it, or maybe check your spam folder. I want to make sure they connect me with the caller. And then the second time on the phone with them, I'm asking them deeper questions, because now I feel like we've opened that door. They can trust me just a little bit. So I'll say, okay, so what's taking you to Chicago again? Oh, my daughter, she's graduating. Yeah, whatever it is.
Gotcha. So you drew a little bit deeper onto the conversation you already had. And some people might be cringing. Oh, what do you mean you call them the next day? Oh no, they didn't call, ask for a call. If you wait too long to call them, Marlene, they're not going to have any idea who you are.
They're going to forget about you.
If you call them a week later, it's a good chance they're going to have no clue who you are. Like, what? Oh, yeah. I mean, 30 days later, forget about it. Like, they're just not going to have any idea what the conversation was like. So I love that kind of two-pronged approach. Like, first call, make a connection, send them the email, the information, call them again. And, just try, and dive deeper into the same conversation.
Yeah. Yep. And then I'll send them a note card. And then at that point, the second call, I'll know what stage to put them in. And based on that stage, I know how often to call them and how often to email them.
I gotcha. And give us a little idea what those stages look like. Is it like ABC, like hot, medium, cold, or what do those stages look like?
Yeah, so I use Follow Boss. So it's hot, warm, nurture, long-term nurture, and I have a no timeline stage where I've had a good conversation with someone, but they really don't have a timeline. And those ones I follow up every like 4 to 6 months.
Got it. So depending on what bucket they land on, and this is through the conversation, like what's their time frame, when do they want to make that happen? You then classify them in these buckets, and each bucket has a different kind of follow-up plan.
Correct. Yeah. But
yeah,
I would say be careful. Like I've also lost deals because I didn't ask really good questions. Before in the past, I've lost a lot of deals. Like actually this beginning of this year, I realized like, oh my gosh, I put people in the wrong bucket. Like I put people in a timeline because I wasn't asking deeper questions. So make sure before you put people in those buckets, like really nail down and ask them good questions.
That's such a good point, because when you have a really initial conversation with them, whatever number they say, they're just making it up. Like they're just, I'm at least a year out. That doesn't give me a lot of confidence, right? I can't plan dinner for tomorrow. You're planning something for like a year and a half from now. Like, tell me more. Like, what's holding you back? What's trying to do that? Let's talk about this more. Well, I had to have my daughter needs to graduate. And when's she graduating? Well, this May, next May. Okay, well, that's not a year out. May is,
exactly.
like 8 months out. So, you walk it back and you go, we got to be talking, like, you got to have a plan in January. Like, in fact, you got to have a plan, right? So you got to be talking.
Are you going to list it before you leave in May, or we want to list it 6 months? Lost so many deals because of that. So
100%. So when you say ask better questions, is it like drilling down? Is it like tell me more about that, and just not leaving the superficial answer, or what do you mean by asking better questions?
Yeah, so you want to make sure to, and this is what I'm working on with my ISAs, because sometimes they get so focused on, okay, so timeline. I'm like, get off the timeline. Like, ask them, like I just said, if they say something, I'm moving to the mainland. What's taking you to the mainland? Well, I'm military. Okay, so you have orders to transfer over? Yeah, probably. Oh, and usually when is that? Is that like usually a year or two? And you know what I mean? So I don't know. I just follow the conversation and keep asking deeper questions. Maybe you could even ask, do you, I mean, you said a year. That's pretty specific. What's happening in a year?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
With
So
curiosity, like approach it with curiosity. Like, oh, interesting.
yeah.
I can barely plan dinner for tomorrow. You got to plans for a year out. What's going to happen to you? Like, what's the
Yeah.
plan? What is it?
Is there
And
any chance that that could be moved up? Like, is that an option?
if you if you find the right home where you're going to, blah, 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 something like that, right? I think people are afraid of the rejection. It's really that, right? If you don't want to you don't want to like push people. I think it's all in the delivery. 100%. You can come on. You can ask that question in a very annoying way, like, "Oh, get this person off the phone," or you can come from genuine curiosity and go, "Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about that." Right? Like to get them
Yeah.
to open up a little bit, right? So yeah, that's a great one. Great recommendation. I think that's really true. And because the timeline, especially if you ask it that way, what's your timeline? That's begging for a very ambiguous answer. Like early on, you're asking for it. You're kind of asking for it. So thanks for bringing that up, right?
I
So
told my ISAs like, don't. We're not FBI. Like, stop being
no, just
FBI.
the facts, man. I just want the facts.
Yeah.
Yeah, people that work that way, not off initial contact. It's not going to happen, right? So, going into it, maybe that no timeline yet bucket is huge at the beginning, and then you kind of, start getting people in the right buckets, right? Yeah, I agree with you. So, Marlene, when do you know? Let's say someone says they're 6 months out, they're a year out. That again, even if they nail it down a little bit, they're not being 100% precise with you. When do you know it's time to, like, when do you book the appointment with them? I guess is my question, right? Is that early on? Is that when they're like 90 days out? Is that when you feel your guys are clicking? What is the when do you ask for that in-person appointment? Maybe it's not even a listing appointment. It's like a I just want to go take a look at the property. What is your strategy behind that?
I would say ask all the time, and if they're
Wow.
open to it, yeah. Because another thing I made a mistake of was it's like, well, he's not listening till 6 months, but I made the mistake like of people meeting with other realtors sooner than that because they wanted to know what to do to prep their home. Or so I would say if you feel like it's worth it and you have a good conversation, try to set the meeting. Hey, typically what people like to do at this point is invite me over. I can do a walkthrough of the property, see what it takes to sell, blah, blah, blah. Would you be open to that? Would that be helpful to you? No, not this time. It's a little early. Okay, when do you think we should do that? I mean, because then they'll tell you.
Okay.
They'll literally tell you when to meet if you just ask first.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
100%. And and I found this to be true. I love to hear what you think. The NAR statistic that says 70% of people will work with the first agent they actually meet, not the first one that calls them or texts them. No. The first person they meet with face to face, like a 2/3 chance that you're going to be their agent. Right. I found that to be true. Right.
Yeah.
And too many agents kind of give up at the call and the text. Oh yeah, I connected with them. I'm their guy. And there's going to be another half dozen people that might meet. That might be referred to them. They might recommend it to them. You got to get in front of them, even if they're 6 months out. I'll get in fights with people over this. Like, I don't want to waste my time. You don't understand the numbers, right? Like this is getting in front of them and making a personal connection face to face, is worth like 10 deep conversations over the phone. You know
I
what I mean?
agree
Like
with
it's
you.
very different. Like the imprint that you leave, and you're like, I don't know, you're like marking your territory. Like, oh, this is my listing. Like I'm your agent, right?
Yeah.
It just hits different when you're in person versus having a really good conversation over the phone. They might forget that in a couple months, right? So I'm in that camp. Like, when should you meet? Whenever they're willing to. Like whenever they're going to say yes. Like if it's 6 months out, do it 6 months before. Add value in that meeting, and I think they're going to be you're like 90% of the way from them being your client, unless you like mess this up. But the ball's in your court. So I love that. Thanks for sharing that, because I agree with you. I think that's the right strategy. Are they willing to meet today? We'll meet today. Oh, but I'm a year out. Let's talk. I love to take a look at the property. I can give you some great suggestions on what you can improve from here to
Yep.
a year out, and we're not to waste your money. Like, like focus it on what's going to give you the best bang for your buck. Is that fair? Great. Let's have that meeting. I love it. So, Marlene, let's talk about pre-ISA. What if so you did 100,000 your first year, which is phenomenal for any real estate agent in any market, right? What have been your personal results? With circle absentee, like the prospect, because you built a prospecting based business. What have been your personal results, in these first few years?
Yeah, so year one, I hit six figures, and then year two, gosh, I don't even know. I think 200,000. Year three, honestly, I wasn't even focused on like income goals.
GCI.
Yeah, I was just doing the work, which I
Love
should
it.
have been like more. But anyway, 200,000. It just kept climbing, 300,000, and then last year, I didn't even realize too, Gustavo. It's so funny, like when I was on a call, I think I was on a coaching call with like Brandon and a few others, and they told Brandon's like, "Well, how much money did you make, Marlene?" Da, da, da. And I was like, "Oh, like over 500,000 GCI." And he was like, "Oh,
And
like."
I'm blown away.
He's like, most agents don't do that. Like,
No.
I didn't even realize, like, oh, I didn't even realize how big that was. So last year, I did over 500,000 GCI. Um, yeah.
Yeah, phenomenal, phenomenal. And I mean, most agents would be happy with six figures. I think most of them would be like, "Oh wow, I've made it, right? I have arrived." So I think that's awesome. And what drove you? So you're having success, you're killing it, right? Just pounding the phone. Why ISA? I think that's I think it's even more interesting question because you're doing great. You're phenomenal. You're top, probably 1% of agents, individual solo agents out there in their personal production. Top one, easily top 1% of agents in the U.S. Why did you want to? What was the desire to bring on an ISA or even build an ISA team for yourself?
I realized I can't scale by myself. That's the
Got it,
biggest thing. Yeah.
guys. So 500,000 is great. That's not your goal. It sounds like, right. That's not. That's great, but that's not where I want to end up. This is where I am, not where I want to go. And to get to where you want to go, you need some help.
Yeah, and like I really wanted time back. And I was like, okay, that was great, but I busted my butt last year and I am tired and I need some time back, and money is great and I need a lot of money because I live in a very expensive area, but for me it's really about my time. I have kids. I
Mm,
would feel like, oh, I have to be on the phones every single day because I know if I do 3 hours, I'll get three leads equals whatever, you know what I mean? I kind of knew my stuff, so I knew
yeah,
like I had to commit time, a lot of time to it. And I was like, I don't see how this can be scalable or how this will help me gain back some of my freedom, if that
got
makes
it.
sense.
Yeah, you wanted to trade, something for freedom for time. You want to make that
Yeah.
trade off, right? Because again, if you have a family, like holy cow, right? I've got little kids myself. It's you don't get those. I mean, just being honest with you, you don't get those years back. You can't like trade for time now and then get it back when they're 18. And they might not want to hang out with you that much when when they're 18 years old. So it's a tough decision for a lot of agents to make. Like, what do they do? How do they make that trade off? Freedom and time or more income. It's usually that. They'll trade income for time. I want to make less money. I'll just work less. So that's definitely a challenge. So you saw ISA as a solution to that.
Yeah, I seen that. Like, okay, so I thought about a lot of things. I'm like, okay, should I do like YouTube ads? Like, I want to do like something. I want to invest in something. And it's funny. I go back to like Brandon Moreno because he used to be my coach. He was like, okay, you did great, but like you should also like do other stuff, like maybe like Google ads or something. I was like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, maybe I should. So I'm sorry. So going back to the ISA, I was like, wait, I'm really good at cold calling. Like, why don't I just teach someone? Why am I thinking about doing Google ads? Why am I thinking about Instagram? Why am I thinking about, let's just use my skills, what I'm good at, let's hire a few ISAs. So that's where I was at. But I'm really grateful that I learned how to cold call and do all that stuff first before I hired. I have to say
yeah.
that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I think it's funny. You did something that's very interesting because most agents don't do that either. They're having success. They want to scale and they immediately want to build a brand new vertical from zero. From zero. I want to learn internet leads. I want to learn prospecting. I want to learn this, I want to learn that. And I go, you're starting from zero. Again, very doable, achievable. I agree. That is going to take a lot of work and a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of work, money, and time to build up a new vertical from scratch. And and especially emphasis on the money part, going to take a lot of money. If it's a paid lead source, you're going to put in tens of thousands of dollars before you see like positive ROI, right? So you decide to double down or quadruple down on circle. Hey, if I'm good at calling, what if I call more? Like, what if I
Yeah.
call more, right? With a team of or an extra person or two to help me, talk to more people in the same amount of time. Talk to more people in the same amount of time. I love that. So okay, enter PowerISA. So tell us about the journey. Now you've got several ISAs working for you. You didn't start that way, but what's been the journey of okay, got a new caller? Because I know it's not been easy. You've hit a few bumps in the road. It's not been all rosy. Most things that are valuable aren't, by the way. Right? Most things that are really valuable take a lot of time and work and effort, especially with the goals you had. Right, you didn't just want someone to help you make a couple calls. You want to actually buy your time back and have more time, and maintain a really profitable business at the same time, not trade off income for time. So, what has that journey been like, Marlene? Give us the whole story. How'd you start? Those bumps in the road, and kind of where you're at now.
I'm so grateful for the journey. Well, let's just say this. When people go to Gustavo or people go to Paris, I would say, and maybe I'm wrong, but a lot of them I feel like have never been leaders before, which is me. I've never led a team. So it was really difficult going from like solo agent to like having responsibility. Like I had to shift my mindset, Gustavo, and be a leader. And I think that's what I have struggled with that whole time. And I think even now I'm still learning how to do that. But going back, it was very challenging. I still have, it's not going to be perfect. There's always going to be bumps in the road. I'm happy I did it. I'm happy I'm still doing it. I think we're at like, I don't even know, like 5 months with Power, I say. Has it been
I think
5?
a little bit more, yeah, a little bit more.
Six?
Crazy.
Yeah. So I hired first. I hired two, and then I fired one, and then I hired. So it was a process because again, I've never hired someone, so I didn't even know what I was really looking for. And then also with your recruiting team, Mariana, like she had to learn me. She helps, with the hires, and she had
Yeah,
to learn. Oh, who is Marlene looking for to
yeah.
help put? So it's a process. It's the yeah, starting from there. Um,
Yeah, and it's iterative, right? And one thing I tell folks because hiring someone and then having that person not work out can be when you're new to this whole process is devastating.
it
Like that's
is.
not a fun process to go through. I understand it, right? It's different for us because we do it 5 times a week, like multiple times a day sometimes. But for someone that's doing this for the first time, you're right. It's like a failure. Like, oh my goodness. And one thing I try to remind folks of, the team gets better at this as we go. Also, as you iterate, not only do you get better as a leader, our team gets better at figuring out what works for you and your market and your type of lead source you want. So the time is it's useful and it's necessary. All right, Marlene. So tell us, how do you have your ISA team organized nowadays? Like, what do they do on a daily basis? Are they just replacing what you were doing every single day? Are they doing something different? Can you lay it out for us?
Yeah, so I have three full-time ISAs. I have one team lead ISA. I gave him he's been with me the longest and has shown, initiative throughout our time together. So I give him a little bit of a bigger hourly pay. And they all three cold call. They circle prospect. I don't have them call expired for sale by owners, nothing. So they're doing what I do. And my team lead ISA also started calling in my CRM, so we'll see how that
Cool.
goes. I I'm still working on the kinks on that, but I
Gotcha.
have a lot of
And
people.
by CRM, you mean like the follow up, everything that happens after that initial contact, right?
So what he's doing now is I'm not calling the leads when they come in. He's calling them and he's
Got it.
asking questions and he's moving them because I just don't have the time to do it.
Got it. Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
100%. I love that. I love that. So now I've got, essentially three people, doing the work that you were. Are they augmenting you? Are they replacing you? Because that's a lot of people. Are they adding on to the leads you're already generating? How have you managed that? All right, because you got a group of people doing it. They might not be as productive as Marlene, but they're doing it. Holy cow, for 8 hours a day. How have you managed that transition?
Yeah, so they're not as productive as me, that's for sure. Like, they're still developing their skills, but they have fully taken on that role, and I have not cold called in a long time, which is crazy wild because I'm like the cold caller, like I cold call every day. I haven't cold called in a long time.
Wow. Okay. So you've kind of, in that sense, that those 3 hour a day sessions, you've replaced yourself, with
Yeah,
with
you're
you've
right.
added you're now doing leveraged lead generation.
Yeah, you're right, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I
That
never
is that is
thought was
crazy.
possible. In fact, what's funny, Gustavo, is I have a small island, right? So my some of my ISAs will call leads that are already in my CRM, like already in my
Oh, wow.
system.
Yeah.
And what I thought about was, oh my God, like I thought I was the best. I thought no way someone could call these leads and ask these good questions and get them into the system. And I have these guys doing it. So I was kind of like, wait, am I not as good as I thought I was? But my one of my friends that's an agent said, that's the wrong way of thinking of it, Marlene. It just shows that, like, look, you're replaceable. Like you can,
Which is
teach
not a
someone
bad thing.
to do it.
It's actually
Yeah,
a really
it's
good thing.
not. It is. It's a good thing. So that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome, 100%. And and just for the people getting too excited about it, I mean, it doesn't mean you don't do real estate anymore. It just means that you are focused on the higher value activity. Okay, so you're not you haven't replaced yourself entirely from the business. It's just the biggest grind activity, like the one that was like just grinding the floor every single day. That part you've been able to build a team to replace you, and now you're even having some help on the nurturing side, which I think is amazing, right? That's even better. You're moving up the chain. You're moving up the chain. So, what is your main focus nowadays? Are you just talking to the people that are 90 days out? How do or are you just supervising this new person that's nurturing the leads and just nurturing on the ones that you're already talking to? What's your role look like right now?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. So, I'm still a leader. I still meet with my ISAs. I try to meet with them at least twice a week. I think it's important to still meet with them, even if, yeah, just know I'm there and I'm here to support them. And I'm honestly the best teacher for them, even if I have a
Love it.
team lead. So I meet with my team lead ISA. I meet with my ISAs 2 to 3 times a week. And then I am calling really the hot and warm leads in my system. And what's really nice too is I found some time to call my SOI and my past clients.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's always a good
I
high value
I
activity. Talk
really
about high value.
yeah. I really wanted to do, but I'm like, I have zero time to call these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
So
that. I love that. So you're gonna I mean that's gonna help your business out as well. I just doing what you've already been doing with leverage, plus doing lead gen you had no time to do before. High value lead gen you had no time to do before. I absolutely love that because you're 5 years in. Like now all those military people are relocating again. They gotta turn over and they gotta flip over and they gotta do all these other things. So 100%, this is a great time to do that. And Marlene, if I were to ask you, what have been the results of this team? You already mentioned a huge one. Like, hey, you know what? I no longer cold call. They've replaced me on the and that speaks, in and of itself. But any other way you would quantify or measure the results you've gotten from your ISA team so far?
yeah, so we haven't had any closings, and the reason being it's going to take some time, especially in this market.
Yeah,
It takes about 9 to 12 months, which I really need to iterate to my team the vision and tell them, hey, it's going to take 9 to 12 months before you guys see that, but just stick with me and it'll happen. And it's like compound effect. Then it'll just keep coming. So there hasn't been closings yet. We've gotten tons of leads, and I have gone. I think we've gotten like maybe like 300 or so leads, maybe even more. Yeah, from circle prospecting. I'm
huge.
not paying. I remember I got quoted as Zillow. I was like, oh, maybe I'll do like Zillow and stuff. So I called Zillow and I asked them in my neighborhood where I live, how much would it cost per month for leads, and they said, "Oh, we can charge you 1,500 per month for 4 leads."
Oh,
Four
wow.
leads. I can
400,
create an
almost 400 bucks a
ISA
pop.
less than that, and they can get much more leads. And these are
Wow.
seller leads; these aren't buyer leads.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. 100%. And Matt, ask them how much their seller leads cost. And that's going to be a different number, right? 40% of the commission, probably, right? So it's crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but that's where we're at right now.
I love
And
that.
I did go on a few appointments because of it. And I have some people I know, like by the end of this year or early next year, it's going to be really crazy with what the ISAs are doing. I
I
know
love it.
that. Yeah. And that's when
Yeah,
I'm going to
because
be
you,
closing.
you know your numbers, and for the folks kind of saying, "Oh my goodness, what's going on?" Circle Prospect is a 6 to 12 month process, right? Which is another reason people don't do it, right? That we mentioned all the other ones. This is the big one. Like, holy cow, I can't wait that long. You know your numbers so well that you can already say, "Hey, I'm gonna get this kind of return on investment because I've already replaced that top of the funnel." And you know how the other parts work. You've got people generating, 300 leads in the top of the funnel, which you know are going to turn into transactions in
Right.
6 to 12 months. And you wouldn't be able to do that if you didn't know your numbers. You would have given up. It's like, oh man, I'm 5 months in, I haven't closed any deals. I can't continue with this anymore. When you were a month away from starting to get, the first positive ROI, and then, like you said, a cascade of sellers ready to go, right? And it just won't happen, in month 5. But if you give up on month 5, and you have all the other positive indicators in the right place, you're going to miss out on the
Yes,
ROI, right?
I agree. And that's why I'm like, oh, that's why I'm so happy I hired ISAs versus doing other things like maybe I could have done like YouTube or Instagram. I was looking for something like maybe, but it's because I know because the numbers don't lie. You can track it, and then I know, yeah. So it feels good. So that's why I'm not going to give up because I'm like I know this is not going to fruit until like 9 months, 12 months. So yeah,
100%. I love that. And you know what? I don't, ever want to knock, Google PPC and YouTube because those things can absolutely work.
yeah.
People have built business on them. But guess what? If you want to do that later, now you've got time. Now you have more time to do that. You can actually add it. One of them you find fun. Hey, I want to do videos. And I want to do short form. I want to do long form. I want to do tours of, Oahu and Pearl Harbor. You want to get a camera and go out hiking. That you can do that now because you have way more time than you had before. You have the affordance, right? You've got the space in your life to take on a project like that. Whereas before it was just a non-starter. You had the decrease before you increased, right? So now you
Yep.
can actually maintain and add on top, which I think is always the ideal situation. Marlene, this has been a joy. It's been a great one. I've enjoyed our conversations. You've been also another thing I want to call out. You were one of the people that's been diligent in joining my weekly coaching calls, and I've helped. I have been. I mean, I wasn't in the room with you guys, teaching how to call, but I helped solve a couple of those speed bumps along the way. Right, speed bumps, not big ones, but I helped you kind of move it along. And the people in that room were like a sounding board. Are you on the right track or not? Right? Other people that are trying to get ISAs to work, some of them very large teams trying to get ISAs trained and hired. And are you on the right track or not? Because in month 5, it's obvious you're on the right track. In month 1 or 2 or 3, you can doubt it. Like, man, there's a lot of work here. This is more work than I thought. Oh my goodness. I had to let somebody go. Is that normal? It's part of the process. It's part of the process, right?
Before we
So
go, I just want to tell you, like, those have helped me so much. And I
awesome.
even told you
Awesome.
stuff. I'm like, oh, you don't have the owner of the company come on here every week and tell you how to do it. Like, it's why aren't most people? Yeah, so we meet once a week, and I find it so valuable. And I'm like, we're more. We should have like 100 people on this call.
100%. So shout out to the PowerISA clients. Hey, you guys should show up to those calls. They're pretty awesome. But I understand agents get distracted. I feel those calls can be really valuable, but you only get out what you put into it. If you bring us a problem to solve, we'll solve it. Right. That is probably the highest value of it. And some people will join those calls just to listen to what people like
Yeah,
problem solving happening, which is also really valuable. But the most highest value, the most bang for the buck is something's going wrong. bring it to the group, and not the wisdom of the group can help you solve it. And we had someone jump in there saying, I'm struggling with expires, and we had like one of the top expired agents, in the country, in that, like, hey, why don't you guys talk? You're probably better at answering this question than I am. Why don't we share that? So I think that's always a good thing when you've got that dynamic, synergy, people
Community.
sharing
It's like a
stuff. I love that.
community. It's a
Yeah,
community.
awesome. Awesome. So great. So, for people listen to Marlene, PowerISA clients, and jump on those calls. And if you want to become part of those calls, well, you can always work with PowerISA. Marlene, last question. If someone was considering bringing on an ISA, right, and getting started, what would you say to them, right? They're on the fence. They're not sure. Oh my goodness, it's going to be a lot of work. Oh, it's going to be, I don't know. I've never hired anyone before. What would you say to get them off the fence?
I would say decide, commit to it. It's either yes or no. Are you going to commit to this? And commit to it for at least 9 months. Have that in your head that I'm going to commit to this for 9 months. That's what I would say.
100%. 100%. I love it. Awesome. Marlene, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye.